Ohio State and Penn State face off in an undefeated matchup this week in the Horseshoe, and there will be a lot of talented recruits on campus for this one. And in this video, we're going to identify the most important recruits visiting the Buckeyes this weekend. But before we do that, subscribe to the On3 Recruits page. We want to get you guys a part of this. We just started it about 5-6 weeks ago. Look at this, almost to 20K. Ohio State fans, smash that subscribe button. Thank you. Okay. Matt Parker from Letterman Row. Let's bring him on. We're going to talk weekend visitors, but before that, I got to ask you about five-star offensive tackle Jordan Seaton. Arguably the most important remaining target on Ohio State's board. He will not be in Columbus this weekend because he's going out to Oregon for a visit. I knew he was going to take an official visit this weekend. Thought maybe Ohio State, maybe Oregon. I don't think this means Ohio State's out by any means, but what's your read on where things stand right now between Seaton and the Buckeyes?
Yeah, talking about five-star offensive tackle Jordan Seaton. Talking with some folks at Ohio State last week, and Ohio State has a good pulse on this recruitment in terms of they know this is going to go all the way until signing day, and they absolutely want to be the last place that he visits.
Yeah.
So they can stay fresh in his mind, and that they are the school that he's thinking about the most when it comes time to make a decision. We all know that Jordan Seaton intends on signing on National Signing Day in December. Do believe he will be an early enrollee wherever he decides to go. And Ohio State they are completely content to just keep pushing it, this visit, the official visit down the road. So they are hoping that he has a good experience in Eugene this weekend. I do believe that's where he's going, is to Oregon this weekend. Ohio State is expected to have Jordan Seaton on campus for the Michigan State game on November 11th. But if that ends up getting pushed back because another school enters the mix, Ohio State is completely fine with that. They just want to be the last place that he visits.
That makes a lot of sense. And especially nowadays with official visits being unlimited, it used to be you could only take 5. So you wanted to get that coveted 5th and final visit. But now, like you said, be patient and just try to wait it out and get him on right before he makes a decision, because I agree with you. I think Jordan Seaton is very impressionable, especially on these visits where they're rolling the red carpet out for him. So, hey, Ohio State fans, just be patient. Your time will come to host Jordan Seaton. All right. Another five-star that will be on campus this weekend is Jeremiah Smith. We talk a lot about the number 1 wide receiver in America on this show. It's his first time back in Columbus since early September. I think he was there for the Youngstown State game. Anyway, Matt, I wanted to ask you, what's the level of concern from Ohio State sources over Smith flipping? Because I talked to all these other writers, and, there's a good bit of confidence coming out of Miami or Florida State or Georgia or wherever. But what is Ohio State sources telling you in terms of what Jeremiah Smith could potentially do?
They're expecting him to sign his letter of intent to Ohio State come December. I think Jeremiah Smith coming up to Columbus for that Youngstown State game, which all Ohio State had to do was show up, and they would win. Him coming to Ohio State that weekend was very significant from the outside looking in. And it goes to show just the relationship that he has with head coach Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, Keenan Bailey, Mark Pantoni, a bunch of guys within that building. And now he's coming back for Ohio State's biggest recruiting weekend. Ohio State, it feels very comfortable with where they are with Jeremiah Smith. That relationship is rock solid, and we see him, take visits to Miami and to Florida State and Florida and everywhere else, as he should. Get all your visits in while you can. But I just think you look at the landscape of how some of those programs' seasons are going and have been going compared to where Ohio State's going, and there's a reason why he more likely than not will end up in Columbus come January.
Yeah. I assumed you were going to say that, but I wanted to hear you say it because I get all these other writers on. And like I said, if he visits another campus, there's all this buzz that Jeremiah Smith could be flipping. But you talk to the Ohio State side of things, and they're very confident with where Jeremiah Smith stands with their relationships with that staff. And I agree with you. I think the chances of him flipping are slim. I like the fact that they're getting him on campus for this big game, and he's continuing to show up in Columbus. That's important. Now, let's turn our focus to who could be next year's Jeremiah Smith. Nan Montgomery's visiting. He's in the 2025 class. He goes 6'1", 165 pounds, and he's from, you guessed it, South Florida, West Palm Palm Beach, Florida. Top 100 prospect at Cardinal Newman High School. Is he Brian Hartline's next great South Florida recruiting target?
It certainly looks like it, doesn't it, Josh? This 2025 cycle is going to be pretty interesting for Ohio State, I think, just because of how they have stacked up 23 and 24 with five-star. The expectation isn't going to change, but as far as it goes with Nan Montgomery, he is quickly emerging as a top priority, if not the top priority for Ohio State in that 2025 class. Montgomery is expected on campus this weekend for the Penn State game. That is someone that Ohio State has identified pretty early on in the recruiting process for the 2025 cycle as being a guy. They feel comfortable with where they sit right now, and this weekend is all about getting him exposed to what a game day is like in the shoe.
Yep. Buckeye fans, you're going to need to write that name down. I think that's a name that you're going to be hearing over the course of the next year or so. Let's talk about a big-time flip target on the defensive line. 4-star D lineman Ameris Williams. He's from North Carolina. Now, he's committed to UF, but he is looking around. I think Tennessee's also involved. A couple programs here. How big of a priority is Williams to Ohio State, and what are you hearing in terms of his recruitment?
Yeah, Ameris Williams, like you mentioned, the Florida commit, Ohio State had been in communication with him starting in September, maybe late August even, and then that has quickly progressed into being a target, being a clear-cut target for veteran defensive line coach Larry Johnson. But having a guy like Ameris Williams in the class would be a step in the right direction, especially after missing out on some of their big targets back in July with Dylan Stewart, Marquise Lightfoot. It's expected that Williams is going to be on campus this weekend. Still working to confirm that visit, but as of right now, we are expecting him on campus for the Penn State game this weekend.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for that one. And you can kind of get the sense right now what Ohio State's trying to do down the stretch. They're trying to fill some spots in the trenches, whether it be offensive line or defensive line, and we'll see what shakes out this weekend. It should be fun. Before I let you go, any other names on your radar for this weekend that intrigue you?
Aside from all of the guys that we've talked about, I think the biggest name to me is going to be 5-star North Shore High School, Houston, Texas area cornerback Devin Sanchez out of the 2025 cycle, the number 2 cornerback in the 2025 cycle by On3. That's a guy who has an unofficial top 3 right now of Ohio State, Alabama, Texas A&M. And I say pretty confidently that Ohio State isn't sitting at 2 and 3 right now for Devin Sanchez. They have really put in the work for Devin Sanchez. They hosted him twice over the summer, starting with a recruiting camp in June where he turned in a head-turning workout, Josh. I mean, goodness gracious, that guy could be in the 2024 cycle if he wanted to be. But that's a guy that Ohio State cornerback coach Tim Walton has made the clear-cut priority for the 2025 cycle. He's a long corner. Ohio State is looking to get that with this 4-2-5 scheme that they run nowadays. And it also helps that Ohio State took a cornerback commitment this past Saturday with Blake Woodby from St. Francis Academy, who is expected to be on campus as well. So expect some peer recruiting from the young 2025 Buckeyes class.
Love it. A loaded visitor list this weekend. Letterman Row, they have it all. Matt Parker, thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop. It's going to be a big weekend in Columbus. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.